Good morning, North Tarrant. We're glad you're here to worship with us today, either face-to-face in this beautiful sunshine or at home in the comfort of your couch. So if you'll join us in singing. Open streets to open plains, we are under one name. No one is lost or goes unseen, 'cause we're all loved by our King. This is nothing ordinary. There is power in the name we carry. Every nation, every tongue, welcome to the kingdom. All the rich, all the poor, all the people, all yours. We are daughters, we are sons, more than mortals. We are royals, we are yours. We are yours, we are yours. We are yours. Hearts abound, running free, different stories, one dream. We don't wonder that we belong. We found our home in the Father's love. This is nothing ordinary. There is power in the name we carry. Every nation, every tongue, welcome to the kingdom. All the rich, all the poor, all the people, all yours. We are daughters, we are sons, more than mortals. We are royals, we are yours. We are yours. We are yours. We are yours. It don't matter where we come from. Everyone is welcome in the kingdom. It don't matter if you're rich or you're broken. We found our freedom. All the rich, all the poor, all the people, all yours. We are daughters, we are sons, more than mortals. We are royals, we are yours. We are yours. We are yours. We are yours.
Good morning, North Tarrant. It's so good to see you here. It is so nice to see everyone's face again. If you don't know, I am the leader of Transit, our middle school group. And again, just so nice to see you. And for parents, in case you didn't know, Upstreet, Wamba, and Transit all have their curriculum on the website, so you can go and take a look there. But this morning, I've got some Frisbees here with me. Now, for a warning, I was on a ultimate Frisbee team in college, so this should go really well if I'm not lying. So that's up to you to determine whether I'm lying or not. But gift cards on the back, so we'll see who can catch these. I was kind of expecting everybody to like jump up and like, it's like a bridal part. No? Okay, all right. Loudest section cheer or, oh, there we go. See, oh man, it's been a while. It's clearly been a little bit. Oh, there we go. Right to Scott. That was my intention right there. Oh, right there. Oh, float. It's coming. It's cutting back. Oh, jeez. Oh, yeah. See. Oh, there we go. There's at least one, right? There we go. It is so great to see everybody. I hope you enjoy this. We've got about 45 minutes to hang out together, worship, praise. Again, just fantastic to see everybody.
Traveling down a back road in search of something more. Not sure what I was up against or what I was fighting for. Alone there in the distance, I saw the signs of life. Now there is no going back. Hope is on the rise. And love came knocking on my door, and mercy lifted me up. No more running, no, my Lord. I'm on my way, I'm on my way back home. There's strength for every trial, there's mercy for today. No need to steal and borrow, child, come and take your place. What's done has been forgiven, the old is dead and gone. Grace has brought me safe this far, and grace will lead me home. Grace will lead me home. Grace will lead me home, yeah. Love came knocking on my door. Mercy lifted me up. No more running, no, my Lord. I'm on my way, I'm on my way back home. On my way back home. I'm going to my Father's house, greatest life awaits. Sitting at the table, free from all my guilt and shame. I might have lost my way, but I never lost the song that led me back into your arms, right where I belong. Right where I belong. Right where I belong. Love came knocking on my door. Mercy lifted me up. No more running, no, my Lord. I'm on my way, I'm on my way. Love came knocking on my door. Mercy lifted me up. No more running, no, my Lord. I'm on my way, I'm on my way back home. On my way back, I'm on my way back, I'm on my way back, I'm on my way back home. I'm on my way back, I'm on my way back, I'm on my way back, I'm on my way back home.
You go.
You make the darkness run and hide. You make the darkness run and hide. You bring the broken back to life. Only you can, only you can. You set me free from every chain. You filled my heart with songs of praise. Only you can, only you can. Jesus, you're the only reason that I'm even breathing. I am wide awake. My heart beats only for your glory. My hands reach up for you to hold me. My soul sings, Father, you are holy. My hands reach to is calling out your name. You left the glory of your throne to bring this runaway back home. Only you, yeah, only you. You give me love, you give me life, you keep me dancing through the night. Only you can, only you can. My heart beats only for you, Lord. My hands reach up for you, my hope. My soul sings, Father, you are holy. My feet dance to the rhythm, to the rhythm. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. You move, your freedom is consumed. I feel it rushing through me. I'll never be the same. You move, your freedom is consumed. I feel it rushing through me. I'll never be the same. My heart beats only for your glory. My hands reach up for you to hold me. My soul sings, Father, you are holy. My feet dance to rhythm, to rhythm. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name.
You've overcome this world with love and made my fight your own. I lift my eyes and throw fear aside and sing out into the night. Even when the world caves, even when the fight calls, even when the war's waged, I'll take heart. I know you are greater, forever you're a savior. I will sing your praise with all that I have, with all that I am, Lord. I stare down the waves, 'cause you own the tide. I still my soul and know you wait for me on waters wild, where faith walks above the storm. Even when the world caves, even when the fight calls, even when the war's waged, I'll take heart. I know you are greater, forever you're a savior. I will sing your praise with all that I have, with all that I am, Lord. With all that I have, with all that I am, Lord. I won't let the storm weather my heart. I won't let the darkness keep me down. Sing in the night, my hope alive in you. I'll walk through the fire and not be burned. Pray in the fire and watch it turn. Jesus, my life, I give it all to you. Sing that again if you know it. I won't let the storm weather my heart. I won't let the darkness beat me down. Sing in the night, my hope alive in you. watch it turn. Jesus, my life, I give it all to you. Even when the world caves, even when the fight goes, even when the war's waged, I'll take heart. I know you were greater, forever you're a Savior. I will sing your praise with all that I have, with all that I am, Lord. With all that I have, with all that I am, Lord. Yeah, yeah. Whoa, whoa. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I won't let the storm weather my heart. I won't let the darkness keep me down. Sing in the night my hope alive in you. I'll walk through the fire and not be burned. Pray in the fire and watch it turn. Jesus, my life, I give it all to you.
I love it. Grant, Paul, Alden, guys, thank y'all so much for singing with us. And hey, thank you for coming today. I hope y'all are having a great morning. I know it's a little hot, but hey, it's not raining today, which I guess that's a positive. We're not running over and trying to destroy all of our equipment. But I want to ask you a random question. A question I've been wrestling with a little bit. A question that I just think could possibly be a game changer in our community today. What would it genuinely look like if we loved our neighbor? I mean, you think about that. It comes from a story that Jesus is talking about in Matthew. In one of the accounts of Jesus, a very smart man comes up to Jesus and he says, hey, so tell me, what is the greatest commandment ever? I mean, they knew good and well that Jesus had a close connection with God. They knew good and well that there was something about Jesus that connected him to their heavenly Father. And so this incredibly wise, smart man wants to find out if there are rules at play. I want to know which rules are most important so that I make sure and do those rules. I mean, doesn't that land with many of us? And when you think about growing up, you probably wanted to find out which rules were most important for your parents, and you abided by those and maybe skirted a little bit in other rules, per se. Y'all are smart. Y'all are good people. That wasn't you. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. I tried, right? But this individual, this smart individual walks up and he says, so Jesus, tell me, Rabbi, tell me, what is the greatest commandment there is? And Jesus responded, as many of you know, he responded and said, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind. And the second is just like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. I don't know about y'all, but what would it look like if there was a little bit more loving your neighbor in our community today? I don't know about you, but I personally, it has been heart-wrenching to see how we have treated our neighbor, how we've treated those that we love, those that are around us. I mean, if you really want to be open and honest about this command that Jesus gave to love your neighbor, one would tend to ask, well, Jesus, who is your neighbor? What does that look like? And, you know, for us and for all practical purposes, we tend to want to love the people that look like us, that talk like us, that act like us. We tend to want to believe and love the people that maybe don't, that aren't a nuisance to the HOA. We tend to want to love the people that do what you say, that abide by what you have to say. But when Jesus was writing this, one of the things he was saying was, when you want to figure out who your neighbor is, your neighbor's actually anybody in the ripple effect of your life. Anybody that your influence comes in contact with. Which, I mean, if we're honest, what does that look like for you? I mean, we say love thy neighbor, but when you really get honest with your neighbors, how many of you judge your neighbors? Oh my goodness, your yard looks like what? Or maybe you ridicule your neighbors. You begin to talk bad about your neighbors. You begin to judge the way they parent, or you begin to judge the way they live their life, or you begin to put any blank in there. Maybe it's not judge your neighbor. You begin to compare yourself to your neighbor. And you're like, I'm going to have a better yard than you. And on and on and on. Or maybe it's not your typical neighbor. Maybe it's your workplace. We want to love our neighbor in the workplace, but isn't it true that many times it's more compete with thy neighbor? Take advantage of thy neighbor? Isn't it more often that rather than loving our neighbor in the workplace, we want to exploit them so we can get the leg up in our job or in our career? And I don't even want to go to Fort Worth traffic. I mean, there's no way that I'm going to love the person that's driving in the ripple effect of my life, right? Yesterday, I was driving down 35 South, and I got on to 35 South, and right in front of me was a big concrete truck, and the concrete truck got over, and I got over, and then all of a sudden, this black SUV came up and rode my tail like crazy up until we got to the point where you could go into the HOV lane. Well, when we went over the HOV lane, the lady that was behind me, she wasn't mad at me. She was mad at the truck driver in front of me, and I don't even think he knew she existed, but he still drove her crazy to such a degree that she rode my tail, and then she decided not to take the HOV lane as we did. And, well, let's just say she had some verbal and some signs that she wanted to give to this guy. And I don't even think he was looking at her. And you begin to think, that's not loving thy neighbor. I mean, you begin to look at social media. You begin to look at the culture we live in today. What would it look like if we genuinely were to put into practice loving thy neighbor? I think for many of us, the truth is that we put any word other than love into that equation. Judge, ridicule, undermine, defeat, frustrate, hate, hurt. I can't help. In fact, one of the things, and maybe you're with me, we just need to take a break from social media because it is littered with, it doesn't matter your opinion, and it doesn't matter the topic. It's almost as if every single topic has a very polarizing reality. And all of a sudden, we can't even be friends. We can't agree. We can't have fun. We are constantly trying to figure out, what is it about them that I don't like? So today, we're going to start a conversation around what does it look like to love thy neighbor. Today, we're going to talk just for a few more moments. I know it's hot. I'm hot. I've got sweat dripping down my back right now. But it's okay. You're looking at the front, not the back, so all is good, right? But I want to talk just for a few minutes today about a way that we can change the way we think when it comes to loving thy neighbor. And the next week, we're going to be online. We're going to have our online service on Facebook and YouTube. And I'm going to finish the series with part 2, as we're going to look at not how do we think, but what do we do? Today, I want to look at how can we change the way we think so that we can love our neighbor. And next week, I want to talk specifically about what we do. So it's interesting, when we talk about what does it really look like to love thy neighbor, Peter, who was a really good friend of Jesus, he gave us an incredible thought. And a thought that I really believe, if we will put it into practice, can change the way we think. It can change the way we act. It can change the way we see those around us. In fact, Peter, who was a really good friend of Jesus, he hung out with him all the time. He was in Jesus's inner circle. Like, you probably have good friends and you have best friends. If you run an organization and you've got a Facebook page, you might have a top fan or two. Peter would have been Jesus's top fan. I mean, he was one of the top 3. And so Peter got a lot of opportunity to hang out and to learn from and to lean into Jesus. And so at one point, Peter gave us an answer to what does it really look like to love our neighbor, a way that we can shift our mindset around that. In fact, in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 18, it says this, "For you know," which Peter's like, hey, you ready for this? You know this. You should know this. You ready for this? I want you to lean in. I want you to lean in because this is really good stuff. Are you ready? You should know, for you know that it was not with perishable things such as silver or gold that you were redeemed from this empty way of life. Now, wait a second, Scott. What does that have to do with loving your neighbor? You see, I love this idea. You know that you were not bought with perishable things such as silver or gold, that you were redeemed from this empty way of life. For all of us, this picture of redemption or redeemed is basically this. It's this idea that you were taken away and then bought back. that you were taken away for some odd reason, that you were taken away. And Peter would say that you were taken away from this empty way of life. And that's how we would define sin. Sin, ultimately, in you and in our life, it is this feeling of emptiness, right? Many of us, we'll do things that they feel great in the moment, but what happens on the other side is it causes a regret. It causes a regret in your friend's life. It causes a regret in your marriage. It causes a regret in your relationship. It causes a regret which leaves us in a position where we're trying to figure out how can we make it right with the other person. We feel empty. We feel hurt. We feel broken because we know that maybe I can ask forgiveness from God. And can I tell you that God has already forgiven you of whatever that looks like? But we still are trying to compete. We're trying to roll over. We're trying to figure out how can I get rid of this feeling of emptiness because of what I've done or how I've acted? And Peter looks at you and he says, hey, guess what? Don't worry. You weren't purchased with the price. You've been captive to this empty way of living, but you've been redeemed. You've been redeemed, and you weren't bought back by perishable things, by silver or gold, but you were purchased back by something remarkable. To which I'll be honest, I would like to ask God, like, if you're going to buy me back from this empty way of life, how much am I worth? Wouldn't you want to know that? Like, God, I just want to know, like, between me and you, I won't tell anybody else, but when it comes to, like, my understanding, when it comes to how much you love me, like, how much am I worth? That would be a great question. And you know what the cool thing is Peter realizes that it's not necessarily any different for anybody. In fact, he goes on, he says, for you know that it was not with perishable things, not with a lot of money, not with millions of dollars or silver or gold that you were redeemed from this life. And he goes on, but it was with the precious blood of Christ, a lamb without blemish or defect. In other words, there's so many times we look in the mirror and we realize, who am I? How could anybody love me? How could a good God, a heavenly Father, ever get past whatever that is in our life that leaves us feeling empty and frustrated? How could a good God ever love somebody that does that? And Peter says, hey, guess what? You don't have to worry about that. You were bought with a price. You've been taken out of that emptiness, and you are somebody. He would say, regardless of what's gone on in your life, regardless of your past, you are somebody to God. Why? Because when Jesus looked at you, he looked at you for the creation, for the beauty, for who he created and how much he loves you. And so when he looks at you, he's thinking there's nothing that you could do that could keep you in bondage to the emptiness that we feel, that you've been bought with a price, you've been paid for. You are worth more than we could ever imagine. Which is kind of cool to think about. When you think about the way you see yourself in the mirror, when you think about the way you see your own reality, isn't it true that many times that we think that we'll never measure up to the standard that God has for us? And Peter says, take that thinking out. You have been bought with a price. There is no longer any reason to have guilt or condemnation. You belong to God. He loves you regardless, which is incredible to think about. But let me take it a step further. And this is when that ooey gooey kind of cool feeling gets a little bit uncomfortable, because you weren't the only one that Jesus paid for. You weren't the only one that was redeemed from emptiness. In fact, everyone is someone that has been redeemed. Everyone is someone with which Jesus places immense value upon. Everyone is someone. When you begin to think about the neighbor that you're like, I can't believe them, I'm going to judge my neighbor, I can't believe they would do that, I'm going to hate my neighbor, I can't believe they would do that, I'm going to ridicule my neighbor, you need to begin to think and change the way we think as if they are somebody that Jesus absolutely loves. They are somebody that when Jesus sees them, he puts an immense value upon them. So for us, it's nice to think about that in our realm, but when we really begin to take that out and we begin to think about the people that don't look like us, when we begin to think about the people that don't believe like us ideologically, that don't vote like us, that maybe when it comes to corona or not corona, when it comes to mask or not mask, when it comes to the conversation of the day, Jesus would look at you and Peter would remind you that the way that we can move forward is to change the way we think and to begin to look as if everyone is someone. Everyone is someone. That concrete truck driver that was in front of me, he is someone. Even though that crazy person that was driving the black SUV, we completely disagree. But you know what? It doesn't matter what they think because God has given them immense value. When it comes to the conversations we have, let me ask you this. How would it change what you post on Facebook or Instagram? How would it change the way we handle some of the conversations today if we really believed that the person that we're speaking to, that they are someone who Jesus immensely loves? How would it change the way that we treat our brother? How would it change the way that we stand up to injustice? How would it change the way that we see the conversation of the day if we just believe that everyone is someone, everyone is someone, everyone is someone with whom Jesus Christ gave the most incredible price for their redemption? I mean, it's beautiful to think about it in my own life, but how does that inform the next conversation you have? How does that inform the way that you treat your neighbor? How does that inform the way you treat your spouse or your crazy uncle? How does that inform the way that you treat the person around the corner that they're constantly being more political than you really want them to, or they're constantly not caring for people the way you want them to, or they're constantly not standing up for what you want? How does it change when we really get into the middle of it and we begin to roll up our sleeves and remind ourselves that they are someone? That they are someone who Jesus, who our Heavenly Father, has put immense value on. And I just so happen to believe that if we would change the way we think about that maybe it could change our community. Maybe it could be the opening start of a conversation. Maybe it could be the change that our country and our community and our culture is desperate for. But if I'm honest, the default inside of me and the default inside many in here, y'all are probably all so much better than me, and I love this. Thank you for. But our default tends not to be love thy neighbor. It tends to be judge. It tends to be struggle. It tends to be undermine. It tends to be try to take advantage. The default inside many of us doesn't tend to be love thy neighbor. But what if we believed, what if we took on this next week with this understanding that Jesus believes that the person next to you, everybody in your influence, everybody in the ripple effect of your life is someone of immense value, is someone that he paid the ultimate price to redeem from a way of emptiness? What if we began to look at the world in a different way? Guys, I am so grateful to be your pastor. I'm so grateful to be able to lead in the midst of these crazy times. I'm grateful. I love seeing these smiles that are in here, and I love seeing the way that when it comes to being for North Tarrant, when it comes to being for our community, when it comes to legitimately wearing the For North Tarrant shirts that you guys have donned so often, the way that we interpret that for is that we want to love thy neighbor as if we see them the way that God sees them. I know if you've been following us on Facebook or you've been watching any of our live prayer meetings or prayer gatherings or after service gatherings, my prayer through this is the same as my prayer for you guys. And it's that God, give us the eyes to see the world as you see it. God, give us the eyes to see the world as you see it. When we begin to see the way he sees, it changes the way we see our neighbor. And it changes our default. So my prayer as we continue the series next week is this, is that God, give us the eyes to see that everybody in my ripple effect is someone with immense value. And God, give me the courage to love them the way you have already loved them. Would you pray with me? God, we love you and we thank you so much for the fact that you are a big God. And God, I thank you for the fact that even in my life, God, as a pastor, there's many times that I feel obligated to love. And God, the default inside of me more often than not tends not to be love, but tends to be things that God, that when exposed would be remarkably difficult to own. And so God, I pray right now that collectively that we would be able to, that Father, that we would be able to love our neighbors as you love them. God, I thank you for the value you've placed in our life. I thank you for the fact that you have redeemed us from a way of emptiness, from sin, that through Jesus Christ, that we don't have to be, Father, that we don't have to live with that condemnation. But God, I pray that as we see our value in you, that God, we would begin to put that same value in everyone. Because God, ultimately, everyone is someone with whom you paid the ultimate price to redeem. So God, give us eyes to see as you see. And God, give us the courage to do as you say. It's in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen.
What only you can do. Replace my doubt, show me what's true. Come do what only you can do. Erase my shame and make me new, more like you. 'Cause even on the coldest night, you're still the warmth inside. I can see the light breaking through. I can see the light breaking through. Even in the shadow times, you don't ever run and hide. 'Cause I can see the light breaking through. I can feel the light breaking through. Speak life and give peace in the unknown. Hold me Even on the coldest night, there is still a warmth inside. I can see the light breaking through. Can you? I can see the light breaking through. Even in the shadow times, you don't ever run and hide. I can see the light breaking through. I can feel the light breaking through. I hope that you can feel the light breaking through, but even if you can't feel it, I want you to know that it is still there. It's the best thing about our God. Even when we can't feel him, he is still there. Even if we don't understand if he's there in our battles or not. In fact, we sang a song a couple weeks ago that we introduced you to, and I'd love to sing that again with you just to send us off, because it really is going to hopefully reinforce the truth that we know. Y'all sing this with me. It's over, but you can just get started. And when I thought I was done for, the waves are just being parted. I stood at the edge of the water, the enemy pressing in behind. I've wandered the driest desert, no promised land inside. I stood in the middle of the fire, wondering if I'll make it out alive. When I was losing the battle, surrounded on all sides, I thought it was over, but you were just getting started. And when I thought I was done for, the waves were just being parted. I've only seen a piece of the picture, it's getting clearer. When I can't see your hand, I will trust your heart. You're just getting started. You're just getting started. You're just getting started. You're just getting started. You're not finished, you're just getting started. Into the darkness you came running, my deliverer every time. My strength, my shield, my shelter, you never left my side. I thought it was over, but you were just getting started. And when I thought I was done for, the waves were just being parted. I've only seen a piece of the picture, it's getting clearer. When I can't see your hand, I will trust your heart. You're just getting started. You're just getting started. You're just getting started. You're just getting started. You're not finished, you're just getting started. You say you are with me, you will go before me. I will trust you only. Sing with me. You're just getting started. You say you are with me, you will go before me. I will trust you only. You're just getting started. Oh, you're just getting started, yeah. I've only seen a piece of the picture, it's getting clearer. When I can't see your hand, I will trust your heart. You're just getting started. You're just getting started. You're just getting started. You're just getting started. You're not finished, you're just getting started. I've only seen a piece of the picture, it's getting clearer. Just getting started. You're not finished, you're just getting started. Woohoo, good job, guys. I am so glad that we're here this morning, and I'm so thankful that you've braved everything that could be against you, even just wanting to sleep in on a Sunday, right? Like, that's the least of our worries. So I'm so glad that y'all are here and we could see you, but know that we are for you, and we're gonna be back. Okay, so I might be corrected if I'm wrong, but we are back here on Sunday, but not here, or not now, but at 5 p.m. and with an ice cream truck. We have got the famous ice cream truck that we all love coming here at 5 p.m. this parking lot this coming Sunday. And then in 2 weeks, the week after that, we'll be right back here at 10 a.m., hopefully with this wonderful breeze. I I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful week. Just remember, it's just getting started. Bye, guys.